A Palestinian terrorist opened fire on the IDF in the Palestinian village of Hawara Saturday evening, injuring 2 soldiers. This is the 3rd shooting in the last several weeks, and the citizens of Israel have had enough. The organizers of the anti-government protest called for a week of paralysis on the nation of Israel to create so much chaos that the government will be forced to capitulate. Netanyahu fired his defense minister. The left responded by blocking a major highway in Tel Aviv and lighting fires. And Israel's apolitical president has called on Netanyahu to stop the judicial reform. I'm Josiah, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Welcome back to the show, guys. Thanks for tuning in today. A lot happening in Israel, as you've probably seen on the news. First off, hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate it. Also, hit that like button. It throws us into the YouTube algorithm, which in the world of big tech and anti-Israel sentiment, it's a big, big help if you would do that and help the show get out there to more people. Guys, first off, we had our first rally for the Heartland, the Israel Guys rally in Nashville last night. And from everything I've heard, it was a great success. I'm not actually there. I'm still here in the studio in Israel. Luke and Joshua are both there. And there's still time to sign up for the rallies in Houston and in Dallas. On March 28th, we're going to be in Houston, and March 30th in Dallas for more Israel rallies, just gathering Israel supporters, Christian Zionist people that support Israel together to support, send a strong message of support for Israel, the heartland of Israel, at those rallies. I encourage you to go check it out. Link is in the description below. You can RSVP for free. Come rally for the heartland of Israel. All right, guys. A lot happening in Israel. And first off, I just want to start off by talking about what happened. It was pretty close to home because I was right near it when it happened. But there were 2 IDF soldiers that were shot in Huwarrah. So there's been another shooting in the Palestinian village of Huwarrah, which is just down the road from our studio here in Samaria. And the shooting took place Saturday evening. It was right after Shabbat ended here in the land of Israel. And the Palestinian terrorist, I think they think he was from in a vehicle driving by, shot at 2 IDF soldiers, hit them both, I think, in the chest area. And as of now, they have not yet caught the terrorists. So Saturday evening, myself and our camera crew were heading out to Tel Aviv to go to the anti-government protests that have been happening and talk to some of the protesters and try to get why they were there and interview some of them. So we were driving out from here. We were stopped right before we went into Hawara by the Israeli military, and they told us, said, hey, the town is shut down. You can't go through because there's just been another shooting. And kind of struck me hard because I was like, wait, there's been so many shootings. There was a shooting last week where David Stern was shot, almost killed. Thank God he is doing much better. He's out of the hospital now, but there's that shooting. And then there's the shooting several weeks before that where the 2 Yaniv brothers were killed, murdered in cold blood in an execution-style terrorist attack right there in the town of Hawara. This is the 3rd attack. And while we have seen an increase in military presence in the town, there hasn't been massive steps to prevent further shootings and prevent to actually like deal with the situation. And I think that's kind of the feeling we're getting with the people in the residents in the area here, the residents of the area here. We were able to go through an alternate route, not going through the town, and get out to Tel Aviv and interview the protesters out there as well. But the 2 soldiers' names were Elon ben Naama and Uri ben Zohar. Please pray for their recovery. One of the soldiers was wounded very seriously. The other was moderately injured. The hospital reported yesterday morning that they both had improved. Their conditions had improved overnight, and they were both now in moderate condition. So shortly after the attack, a protest was formed on the outskirts of Hawara of the Israeli citizens from these surrounding communities that live in this area, and these families, these Israeli citizens that have to drive through Hawara on a daily basis, and their lives are in danger every day because of these terrorist attacks that keep taking place. So some of the residents reportedly were displaying protest signs against the conduct of the IDF and the government. One of the signs actually read, it said, Yehuda Fox, are you with us or against us? Now, It says that Huwarrah Fox is the IDF commander in this region. So they're calling on the IDF saying, please solve this issue for us. Do whatever it takes to stop, to clean house, to take care of these terrorists, to stop this threat against the life of Israeli citizens in this area. It's a very reasonable request, reasonable sentiment that the guys, they're just fed up. They're just tired of people being attacked and murdered as they go through this town. And same place. It's been happening over and over again. And it doesn't seem like anything has changed with the security situation and the way the security authority is handling it in this area. Protesters gathered. One place I saw hundreds of protesters were gathered. I came back coming on the way back from Tel Aviv about midnight, 12 o'clock a.m., something like that. And there was around probably 100, maybe 150 Israeli citizens and settlers down there. And there's probably just as many or even more police that were gathered there. And at that point, I didn't see anything. They weren't being violent or anything like that. They were all just standing there. Some of them had signs and they were protesting, just standing there on the outskirts of Hawara, like, come on, we have to do something. Something has to change. There was another report that several Israelis who were driving through Hawara at the time of the protest after the attack were attacked with stones thrown at their vehicles going through the town of Hawara. So yesterday morning, so Sunday morning, an MK from the Religious Zionism Party marched through Hawara on foot, just walked through. This is a member of Knesset, Israeli member of Knesset from the Religious Zionism Party. He walked through Hawara with Israeli flags in a declaration that the Jews in this area are not intimidated by terrorism and that they will not, making a statement that they're not going to leave because of the fear, which, by the way, if the Israelis were to get up and leave because of these terrorist attacks, that is capitulating, that is giving in to the terrorists, and that is making a statement to the terrorist organizations and the terrorists themselves that, yes, terrorism works. Keep it up. Whenever you attack us, we will leave and we will do whatever you want. And that is not the response to terrorism. We know that. America knows that. We've dealt with so much of it in the past. Israel knows it, that you cannot negotiate. You cannot give in to terrorists at all. So this MK, his name is Tzvi Tzukot. He's from Religious Zionism. Walking through his, what he said I thought was really impactful. He said, quote, "Here on this road, which is on the way to all the settlements in the area, there were 3 serious shooting attacks in the last month. Unfortunately, nothing significant seems to be done to prevent the 4th attack. I'm calling on the Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant. The checkpoints around the city of Shechem, Nablus, must be restored immediately. We need to close the trade here, take care of the traffic arrangements here, and engage in an uncompromising war against the enemy. It doesn't matter if it's Ramadan or not. You have to go to war with the enemy. This is your job, Yoav Gallant. You are here to strengthen the Jewish residents of the area. We will continue to drive here on our way home." I just thought that statement was very impactful, and it's so common sense, and it's something that just needs to be said. I'm not seeing this in any of the mainstream media. I'm not seeing this in any of the international bodies that have been, unfortunately, condemning Israel. But why don't people just say something as common sense as this? There are terrorists who are fighting against the lives of innocent Israeli civilians. The IDF needs to go to war against those forces that are trying to harm innocent civilians. It's plain and simple logic. It's just a common sense fact that needs to be said. And thankfully, this guy said it, and he wasn't afraid. He walked straight through the town of Hawara with Israeli flags. Pretty cool. All right, so that's like the situation here in Samaria, Hawara. Again, the situation on the ground. And if any of you have watched any of the news, we're going to talk about the protest that went on last night and have been going on for the past several weeks in just 1 second. Passover is such a special time here in Israel. Preparations have made the whole land, especially Jerusalem, take on a renewed era of excitement. If you're not able to make it to the Holy City this Passover, then you need to check out our friends at Blessed by Israel. They have a whole array of awesome products from the Promised Land: olive oil, ceramics, coffee, soap, cosmetics, perfumes, and much more. Don't buy your products from Walmart or Amazon. Make your exodus and find the best money can buy at blessedbyisrael.com. Even better, this Passover season, they're offering you $5 off your order when you use the code Passover. Head over to blessedbyisrael.com, use the code Passover for $5 off your order. Link is in the description below. Stand with the heartland of Israel. If you have watched any of the news of what happened in Tel Aviv last night, you have probably seen videos like this. And this. And maybe even you saw videos like this. Well, I'm going to try to give you a breakdown and give you the events as they happened yesterday, just real quick before we end out the show here. So Saturday night or Sunday morning, the protesters of the organizers of these protests that have been going on for the last 14, 15 weeks that have been protesting the quote unquote judicial reforms. These organizers started calling for a week of paralysis, and they called for 600,000 protesters on Sunday to basically paralyze the country, to block intersections, highways, to strike for unions, to strike, teachers unions, universities, all these things, to strike, to basically try to shut the country down as much as possible in order to get the government to capitulate to their demands. So Saturday night, the defense minister, Yoav Gallant, who's actually from the Likud party, made a speech calling to halt the judicial reforms until a compromise can be negotiated with those who are trying to stop it. And now, this seems like a very reasonable request, but unless you realize that they have tried to negotiate multiple times with the left, with the leaders of the left, who have, I think, only once said that they're willing to negotiate, and then when they tried to completely shut it down and didn't want to negotiate at all. Basically, it's an all or nothing. They hate this government. They hate the right-wing politicians. Any of them, they hate Bibi. So anything that he does is going to be bad, and they're going to protest anything against it. So that's kind of been the situation between why there hasn't been negotiation on this issue, because the right has tried and said, okay, we will negotiate, and then the left said, no, we don't want to negotiate with you. That's kind of the simple, very, very simple breakdown of the way it's happened. It is more complicated than that, but that's kind of the simplified version of it. So Sunday evening, as protests were already in process around the country, a lot of people protesting, as the one I went to Saturday night, there were a lot of people there in Tel Aviv protesting as well. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, actually fired the defense minister, Yoav Gallant. And so seems like Yoav Gallant's speech Saturday night calling to halt the judicial reforms, kind of moving away from or going in opposition to what Netanyahu's policies are, seem to be the last straw for Netanyahu, who has been losing trust in his defense minister, Yoav Gallant, for quite a while now, mainly due to his left-leaning policies on many issues and a lot of his actions that have not aligned with the prime minister's policies for this government. And all the news media pretty much I've seen and everywhere, the protesters are all saying, this is the perfect example of Netanyahu overthrowing democracy. His defense minister says something he doesn't like and he fires him, or he goes against the judicial reforms and Netanyahu fires him. Sorry to say, but this is actually not that rare for the prime minister to fire one of his ministers, especially a senior minister. It's happened many times in Israel before, and it's happened for a much lesser reason than this reason right here, that he fired his defense minister. So it's not at all an overthrow of democracy. It's just when the defense minister is no longer aligning with the prime minister's policies for his government, then he fires him. It's just like the president of the United States can fire any one of his cabinet members if they are no longer adhering or aligning with the policies of that president of the United States. It's basically as simple as that. So then after this announcement was made that he's firing the defense minister, tens of thousands of protesters block the Ayalon highway, which is Highway 20 going into Tel Aviv there, a rather large highway there, and they lit massive bonfires on the highway there. Were rallying, protesting there, blocking, completely shutting down traffic and blocking the entire highway there, which is what you saw in a lot of those videos that we showed at the beginning of this. And also protesters in Jerusalem also broke through police barricades and surrounded the prime minister's residence, protesting there as well in Jerusalem against the prime minister and against the government. And so this morning, Monday morning, the president of Israel, who's supposed to be apolitical, he's supposed to be the figure, like the image of the state of Israel, representative, the father figure of the state of Israel, not supposed to be right-wing, left-wing, basically called on Netanyahu to stop the judicial overhaul, saying that Israel is in danger of a civil war, saying that basically making all these statements that Israel is in danger of collapse, and that there's a massive security threat, and all these kind of stuff, saying Netanyahu need to stop the judicial reform. And there's even some of the leaders in Netanyahu's own coalition now that are saying that maybe we should halt this, maybe we should take a breather, step back, should freeze this for a bit until we can reach further negotiations, which, like I mentioned before, hasn't really taken place so far. So the way everything is on the ground right now is that Netanyahu is supposed to make a speech sometime today. We're recording on Monday. He's supposed to make a speech sometime, and a lot of people expect him to announce that he's going to, excuse me, he's going to freeze the judicial reforms for now. Don't know exactly like what that means or what that is moving forward, but basically, a lot of people expect him to capitulate to all these the protesters and the people who are calling on him to stop what is going on. And I'll leave off with this and just close out with this. The main thing I have, the main thing that I learned, I guess I could say, from my experience going to the protest Saturday night and seeing what these guys are actually protesting against, is it actually judicial reforms, and will they be happy when the judicial reforms, if Netanyahu says, okay, we'll stop or we'll halt the judicial reforms or freeze the judicial reforms, will these protesters be happy? And the main thing I gathered is that the large majority of the protesters who were there Saturday evening, this is right in the heart of Tel Aviv and Dizengoff Street. Hopefully we'll make a video showing you all that, the interviews we got there. But the main thing I gathered is that the majority of the people there are completely against the government. Not necessarily, and it seems like the judicial reforms is the excuse to protest the government. For one, they hate Bibi. For two, they hate the religious, God-fearing right-wing ministers who are now part of his coalition. They hate all that, and they've been. It's interesting because they all, as well, basically said the same words and spoke the same rhetoric, and you could totally tell that they are being fed this rhetoric by the leaders. Same rhetoric I've heard from the leaders of the Israeli left here in Israel. They've been feeding them this rhetoric of hate, of fear. They fear that their rights will be taken away if this government is able to push through the judicial reforms, things like that, and to make Israel actually more democratic with the judicial system, things like that. That's what the judicial reform is going to do. But they've been pushing forward this rhetoric that it's a fear thing. The government's going to take away our rights. We hate this government. We hate Bibi. We hate all this kind of stuff. So kind of that's where I feel where it's at today. What's happening, the kind of the temperature in the land of Israel. And obviously, we don't know exactly what's going to go forward. And we'll be reporting later in the week on what Netanyahu, his speech is going to be, what he's going to decide on, whether he's going to freeze it, whether he's going to go forth with it. But guys, you know what to do. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. We love interacting with you there. Guys, continue to pray for the nation of Israel during this time. It needs your prayers and your support as Christian Zionists more than ever. Guys, don't forget to support Israel's biblical heartland by purchasing beautiful products from here in Samaria and Judea for Passover. Get those. Click the link in the description below. Subscribe. Get the conversation going down below. In the meantime, tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening in the land of Israel. We'll be back every day, Monday through Friday, with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.